Falling in love with yourself is an incredibly rewarding journey. But just like any other journey, it can be difficult. For the past year, I have prioritized getting to know myself, discovering who I am, and actually appreciating who I am. And that is not a linear path. You don't just decide I'm going to love myself and then you do that. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs and ebbs and flows and learning new things in order for that journey to even start. I spent the first half of the year really messing up and messing up more than I had the years before. And I think this is because the years before I prioritized my spiritual growth. And whenever you hyperfixate on one thing too much, you can kind of get lost in the sauce and be imbalanced. And especially if you surround yourself around people who are super woo-woo. That was the case for me because I taught yoga. I was around people who just lacked balance, were too airy, and were not grounded. And I needed to return to my idea of spirituality, which to me is something that is bigger than me, a higher power. I'm just a vessel that is being guided as long as I listen. And I don't think I was listening. I think I got too wrapped up into worldly things, whether that be practicing yoga or meditating or making incense and burning them, because I was actually making my own incense from scratch. So I knew it was going into them and burning them. And in a way that was like a spiritual practice, but it wasn't, because all of these lessons are in you. All these things are in you, and God is all around us. But spirituality is a whole other topic that I'm not diving into this video too much. With that being the case, once I started to acknowledge the fact that I was too far out, it was too late. I was already back on the wrong track because I lacked balance. I went too far into all of these things that didn't necessarily align with me, and started to explore femininity and all these things that I didn't really ever think about, but it's really important that I started to think about them. And now I'm able to have some sort of balance. So I think the first major part of falling in love with yourself is discovering balance, or discovering the fact that you might be out of balance. And I think so many of us are, because the pendulum constantly swings, especially whenever you're learning. So that's normal. Back to this year, I was doing things that were very wrong. I was going back into some of my old patterns of surrounding myself with things that I did not care to do anymore, like poly relationships and open relationship, things that I just decided years ago that I no longer wanted to explore. But being in like these really woo circles and spiritual and kind of like things that I don't think were of my idea of God, I started to lose myself. And very quickly, because I had already started this journey, I was guided back. Shout out to you. And I was able to get back on the journey that I needed to be on. It's kind of like I was merging, right? So I started off with this journey of spirituality, and then that kind of like merged into femininity, and that kind of merged into all these different things. But for sure, what I know is that I was on this journey of spirituality, and it was merging into self-worth, self-love, and falling in love with myself. And that needed to come from essentially taking a left and then being like, oops, I'm going down the wrong path. Let me go ahead and make this cute ass right and get back on the road that I needed to be on. So I needed to mess up. So I started the year off messing up and getting into these things that I did not feel comfortable with. And very quickly, I learned in those situations that this was not right for me. And the only reason why I knew those things weren't right for me is because of the lessons I had just learned. I was seeing things that just did not align with me, and being in the predicaments did not feel right for me. And though I had healed in various different ways, I hadn't healed in these ways that I needed to heal yet in order to make the best decisions in love, specifically romantic love, and I guess in a way even platonic love, because to me it's very difficult for me to express love or be comfortable in love if I don't love myself. And I think now that I finally love myself, I'm going to be capable and able to love other people. Once I came to my senses and knew that I needed to leave romantic love alone, I made the decision to not date until I fell head over heels in love with myself. And I also, a step forward or a step up from not dating, I decided to no longer have sex until I was able to fully love myself. And I don't get lonely very often. But for the first time in my life, I've experienced loneliness. I've always been very introverted, and it's very easy for me to push people away. And I've talked about this in another video about hypersexuality. Those two things are different for me. Like, a person being there and giving myself up does not or has not always equated to me actually giving who I am away. Giving my body away and actually being who I am with the person have never coexisted. So I decided to stop giving my body away so that I could first show a person who I am, and then maybe get to know or understand if they actually give a damn. And now I know that most people actually don't, so I should not give up my body. With that being the case, I stopped dating and made peace with all of the mistakes that I've made in my life, in particular giving my body away. And I really jumped head first into all these goals that I wanted. So I've always been interested in bodybuilding, and I haven't always had the best image or self-image. I'll just be honest, my self-esteem has not been the greatest. And a lot of that comes from the fact that I haven't always liked the way that I looked. And I think a lot of that comes from mommy wounds. And that is a deeper conversation. But nevertheless, I have never wanted to be thick. I've never wanted to be big. And I always have been very interested in health and what that means for my body. And bodybuilding isn't inherently a healthy sport, but it's something that I'm interested in. So I told myself, you might as well try to make these two things coexist to the best of your ability and actually dedicate this time that you would be giving your body away or wasting your time with people that actually don't care about you, and put that time into your own body. So I've spent the last year working out a lot and building my body up to a place where I never thought would have been possible. And it's made me fall so in love with myself, because though bodybuilding can develop various different body image issues, and I'm still struggling with those because I was struggling with those issues before, it has also made me really appreciative of what my body can do. Before I really started bodybuilding, I did on my spiritual journey start to work out. So I wasn't new to working out, and I wasn't new to what I needed to do in order to get my body to a healthy place, which is the reason why I wanted to blend those two things together. So I still did a lot of the things that I learned before. Like, if anyone is interested in losing weight, you should start walking first. It's the easiest way to lose weight, specifically lose body fat, because that's what most people want to lose whenever they say they want to lose weight. Or if people want to get healthy, the easiest way to do that is to just walk. And I still walked a lot as I was preparing for my bodybuilding competition. And though I thought that I was going to be merging off of the spiritual journey whenever I embarked on the self-love journey, I learned in my bodybuilding prep that I was still on the same path. And in a way, I think that every journey that we embark on will always be the exact same journey. Like, I see all of these different videos about winter arc, and how to reinvent yourself in 90 days. And I don't really think that's how this whole thing works. I think that we're constantly on an arc, because our entire life is a journey. And as long as we are remembering the lessons that we might have learned yesterday or the last month or the year before, our journeys are always going to be ongoing and kind of the exact same thing. And different things from our past will come back up that will test your gangster and see if you actually have been paying attention and learning and putting in the work that you need to in order to continue on this journey. And maybe you might need to get a flat tire and stick with where you're at right now to progress forward. I have learned to appreciate the level of, I guess, grit or I don't know the word. I have learned to accept, or I have learned to appreciate, again, the fact that I'm able to constantly pivot in the face of discomfort. Because regardless of the journey that you're on, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Bodybuilding, extremely uncomfortable physically and predominantly mentally. Spirituality and understanding that inner compass, or understanding what the world around you is telling you. You have to be uncomfortable constantly because you typically don't want to do what it is that you need to do, what it is that you want to do. And in a way, I think this is the reason why it's so easy for so many of us to get triggered by things, because though trigger is definitely a word in the psychology world, but I want to use it more in like common terms. Something might piss you off, and sometimes it's important to question why you're being pissed off by a thing whenever you are the person that's in control of your own life, feelings, and destinies. And feelings are just temporary. So if you allow a thing to piss you off so bad, you are now in control of your feelings, and you're choosing to let your feelings go in a negative place. So if a person tells you it's not good to be overweight, and that pisses you off to a point where you're no longer reeling back in why you're upset about that, that might be the truth. And that's another thing I learned on my journey. I'm a person who says things very directly, and I've used that to my advantage because the truth doesn't really bother me. So if you are learning to love yourself or learning to accept a journey, you have to also accept the truth, because the truth will piss you off, but it actually will set you free. And no one can check you or tell you your own truth if you already know it. It's a very liberating process to understand what it is that you need to do, and then start to take the steps that it is that you need to do. I am so appreciative that I've had this last year to do things that have been uncomfortable, and to check my own self regarding my own past behaviors and bad behaviors. And I'm excited for the next few months to put the things into practice that I have learned, because none of us are a lost cause. We can always pivot. We can always learn from our past, and we can put the information that we receive from the world into practice constantly. Your history does not have to be where your life stops. You could be impoverished one day and a millionaire the next day. And I believe in free will, but I also believe that some things are, predestined. But with that being the case, with the level of free will, you're able to explore your destiny further. And I think a lot of us are destined for greatness, but we don't utilize our free will to get us there. And that is where honesty comes in, and that is where accepting discomfort comes in, and that is where you come in, because all of those things take you. And we are all significantly stronger than what it is that we allow ourselves to be, but we get too comfortable with being weak as hell. And inherently, you ain't weak as hell, because I ain't weak as hell, and we all a reflection on one another. So if I ain't weak, you ain't weak. And I'm excited to see not only what I do over the next year, or honestly the rest of my life, but I'm excited to see what the entire world will do, and you will do, for the next year and the rest of your life. Fall so deeply in love with yourself because you are capable of marvelous things. You don't even know your own potential. But I see your potential because I see my potential. And I think that we are destined for greatness as long as we put our will forward to achieve that greatness. I pray that you fall so deeply in love with yourself over the next year that all of your wildest dreams come true. You got this. We got this. Mwah.